Morning, everybody. Welcome back to Thor's World. You know, the title of this video is Quit Effing Complaining. You know, I'm part of the boomer generation, and I'm watching a lot of videos saying that it's the boomers' fault that you younger generation are struggling. Well, let me tell you what, I'm going to give you a little advice. It is not our fault. We are a resilient generation, unlike you younger generations. And I'm not saying all of you. You have been so used to being coddled, everything handed to you. You've probably been raised by your parents that are always spending in debt. So you know what? It tends to get passed down the generation. And as far as this, the economy, yeah, things are a little tight right now, but it's not that bad. The problem is, and this is my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of opinions of other people, but nobody wants to say it. Y'all are living way above your means. You expected to be handed everything in life, not having to work that hard for it. You're complaining that I can't get a job. Well, there's jobs out there. I guarantee you that. Just because you expect to be making $150,000, $200,000 a year out the gate. Come on, that's not going to happen. Maybe in a very low percentage of jobs, maybe that could happen. You know, I am 60 years old, and I'll tell you what. I have a refrigeration degree, and my previous video I talked a lot about refrigeration and being an electrician on how you can make good money. But you know what? The younger generation, they don't want to get out there and work that hard. Hell, they probably just want to sit in their mom and dad's basement and get on social media and complain about, oh, I can't make it. I don't have a job. You know what? That stuff's old. Come on, get out of the basement, get out there, get your hands dirty. You know, I can install 3 mini split systems in 1 week and not have to work for the rest of the month. You know, you got to learn how to get out there and hustle. Quit having your hand out saying, hand it to me. You know, it doesn't work that way. The boomer generation, we know what it means to get out and hustle, work hard for what you got. We don't expect everything to be handed to us. We never did, we never will. And what is with this septum thing in the nose? Is this some sort of a cult following or whatever? Because I'll tell you what, employers, you come to my job, you come to my company, and you've got these snake bites in your lip, and you got this septum in your nose, and expect to be making 30, 50 bucks an hour, yeah, you keep walking. You know, I'm not bagging on all the younger generation, because I'll tell you what, I know this young kid, he lives here in town. The kid now is worth $1 million. You know why? He's a farmer. Yeah, everybody says, oh, farmers, they don't make no money. Yeah, bullshit. I mean, come on. The kid's got several combines. He owns 3 big trucks. And you know what? He worked his butt for it. He's one of the low percentages of the younger generation that actually knows what it means to get out and hustle, work your butt off, and make that money. I am proud of this kid. But anyways, I'm not just here to bag on everybody or this younger generation, because, it's not all like that with the younger ones. And get out of this mindset thinking that when you go out and get a job, you expect to be getting paid top tier money. It's not going to happen. I mean, quit living so far above your means where you're constantly in debt. I mean, come on, learn to lower it. Live below the means for a while and start stacking that cash. I guarantee you it works. I'm sorry to hear all this stuff on YouTube, how, the economy sucks, nobody's hiring, and blah, 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 blah. And I'll be honest with you, I see a lot of people still buying new cars, going on vacation, and enjoying life. And honestly, I think half, not even half, probably 35% of these videos are actually, people are struggling. The rest of it, it's just people on here on social media just saying, oh, well, blah, 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 I can't make this, economy sucks, I'm broke, I'm living in my car. That's all clickbait, man. And I'll be honest with you, it's just so they can get views and subscribers and make that money. Because you know what? There's nothing wrong with it. But have a real job. Do this on the side. I don't expect to get monetized or make a ton of money off of YouTube. Hell, I don't really care. I don't need the money. Like I said, I can work 3 days installing one mini split system per day, and still making those 3 days and what you guys aren't even making in 2 weeks worth of work. And back to my first video that I put out, you don't have to actually go to a trade school, but it's great. Sometimes you can get lucky and go to like electrician shop, plumber shop, refrigeration shop, mechanic shop. Get under that wing of that master plumber or master refrigeration tech or master mechanic. They'll be glad to take you in as an apprentice. We all know what it means to start at the bottom and work your way up. We're not blaming you for not having the experience. We're actually happy that you would come into our shop and say, hey, can you teach me this skill? We'd be more than glad to. I showed a gentleman the other day. He knows I do refrigeration. Even though I'm semi-retired, I don't have to work as hard anymore. But this older guy, he says, hey, I'm going to install a mini split system in my living room. And he said, what would you charge? I said, for the 3 hours work, $700. And I said, I'll tell you what, though, if you're willing to do the work, I won't charge you a thing. I'll come pull a vacuum down on your system and make sure you got everything sealed tight and you don't have any leaks in your system. I won't even charge you. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah. He did a damn good job. And I pulled a vacuum on it, let it sit for a while. It held good, no leaks. He says, well, what do I owe you? I said, like I told you before, you don't owe me a thing. And I said, I'm just proud and happy that you actually did it yourself. And I said, it's not that hard, is it? And he says, actually, no. He goes, you make good money doing this, huh? I'm like, yeah, I can make good money doing that. So I wrapped it up, and said congratulations and left and came back to my place. He knew where I lived, and he says, I have to pay you something for your professionalism as far as pulling the vacuum. You have the equipment. He goes, I know that stuff's not cheap. I said, no, you don't have to give me anything. He handed me $100 and walked away. So, that's kind of like going back to the gratuity thing on my first video. It happens. I installed for a dog kennel 3 different size mini split systems. They're for the the size, the square footage of the kennel. So you have 3 different sizes, and it took me for those 3. It took me 9 hours because I do everything right. I hook the electrical up, I run the head systems, the condenser, pull the vacuums. And when you pull in the vacuum, it takes a little while because you want to make sure you don't have any leaks. That's why it took me 9 hours. But hell, I made $1,800. I mean, how many of you younger generation could go out one day and say, hey, you know what? I worked 9 hours, made $1,800. It's out there. It can be done. Get that skill. I'm not just here just to bag on the younger generation, but I'm getting tired of listening and seeing these videos on YouTube that it's all the boomers' fault. It's not our fault, it's your fault. It's probably your parents' fault because you were handed everything. You're used to having everything on a silver platter. I tell you what, you respect more for what you get when you work for it. When you're handed something, you don't really care because you have no skin in the game. So anyways, I thought I would make this video just saying, you know, don't blame the boomers. Blame yourself because you haven't figured out what you're going to do or how to make it. You know, and in a lot of these videos, I'm sure you guys are recording on Apple phones. You know, you've got your Apple Watch and all that stuff. That stuff ain't cheap. If you can afford that, you know what? Go get a job. You guys have nice cars, you know. I mean, there's nothing wrong with all that nice fancy gadgets. But don't get on here and complain and say, you know, it's not fair. The boomers have just ruined our chances and stuff like that. That's a bunch of crap. Get out from underneath your mom's basement, get out there, get that job, get that skill, and make that money. And like I said, I'm semi-retired. I still do refrigeration on the side, you know, and here's another thing. I have the equipment, so if somebody wants to throw their refrigerator or freezer away, you can't just take it to the dump unless you, you know, get all the refrigerant out of the system. Well, with my EPA license, I'm licensed to go out there, pull a vacuum on that, get all the refrigerant out of there, and it takes me probably less than 10 minutes, and I make $150. People pay it, you know, they don't want these old pieces of appliances sitting around their place, so they're willing to pay it. And there's times where I give a break. If I know a person ain't got a lot of money, I'm not going to charge them what I normally charge. You know, I do have a heart, you know, and I'm not all about the money. Sometimes I do the charity work. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because you know what? That word of mouth will go a long ways. And I've got a job coming up, and it's a big pole barn. And the guy wants me to install a couple of split systems, and, you know, and mini splits. And I said, hey, you know, I can do it. He said, well, what do you charge? I said, what's a fair price for you? He told me. I said, well, that's actually above what I would actually charge, so I'll just charge you what I would normally charge. He goes, seriously, you would do that? I said, yeah. I said, I love my work. I enjoy it. I love doing what I do, and that's what I did full time for a long time. And but anyways, you know what? Just quit complaining. Get out and make it happen. Get rid of these goofy septums in your nose and these snake bites. Employers don't want to look at that. And there's a reason why you guys and gals are on YouTube making these videos, because nobody will hire you. And you know, you guys expect to get hired making top dollar. It doesn't work that way. Come on. Quit being used to having everything handed to you. Get out there and work your ass for what you get. It'll pay off. Well, anyways, thank you for watching Thor's World. Not trying to bag, like I said, on the younger generation. I'm sure you're not all that bad. But quit blaming the boomers. We make it happen. Thank you for watching Thor's World.